They hid a tracker in my engine bay. I hid it under a semi headed west. Then Repo team drove 800 miles, while my truck never left my house. I was elbow deep in the engine bay of a 2019 Ford F-150 when my knuckles brushed against something that shouldn't have been there. It was a wire, a thin, black, non-factory gauge wire that had been zip-tied so tightly against the main harness that it was almost invisible unless you were looking for it. And I was looking for it. I'm a mechanic. I've been turning wrenches for 15 years, and I know exactly what a stock wiring harness looks like. This was a parasite. I stopped ratcheting. The garage was quiet, just the low hum of the heater battling the February chill and the distant sound of traffic on the highway. It was Monday, February 16th, President's Day observed. I had bought the truck 48 hours ago on Saturday during a blowout sale at a place called Frank's Auto Kingdom. You know the type of place: inflatable wavy arm guys out front, free popcorn that tastes like cardboard, and a financing office that smells like desperation and cheap cologne. I pulled my hand back and grabbed my shop light. I shined the beam into the dark crevice behind the fuse box. There it was. A black plastic box, about the size of a deck of cards, magnetized to the firewall. It had two LEDs blinking in a rhythmic, predatory heartbeat. Green. Red. Green. Red. I traced the wires. One went to the ground. The other didn't go to the battery for power, it was spliced directly into the fuel pump relay using a vampire clip. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a GPS tracker. A tracker just needs power. This device was wired to interrupt the circuit. This was a remote kill switch. I felt the heat rising in my neck that had nothing to do with the shop heater. I stood up, wiping grease onto a rag, my vision blurring slightly with rage. I had paid $22,000 for this truck. I put $5,000 down in cash. I signed a contract that was thick enough to choke a horse. And nowhere, absolutely nowhere, did it say that Frank and his cronies had the ability to shut off my engine while I was doing 70 miles per hour on the interstate if their computer system decided I was 5 minutes late on a payment. I grabbed a pair of wire snips from my chest. I wanted to cut it. I wanted to rip it out and smash it with a hammer until it was nothing but silicon dust. But I stopped. My phone buzzed on the workbench. I walked over and picked it up. It was a text message from a number I didn't recognize. Welcome to the Frank's Auto family. This is an automated message to confirm your vehicle safety system is active. Your truck pinged successfully at my home address. Drive safe. They were watching me. They were watching me right now. They knew the truck was parked. They knew exactly where I slept. I looked back at the truck. If I cut the wire now, they would know. The device would send a power loss or tamper alert instantly. They might send a repo truck. They might try to disable the ignition remotely before I could finish the job. I needed a plan. And I needed to make sure that when I hurt them, it wasn't just a scratch. I wanted to total them. I put the snips down. I picked up the black box, carefully peeling it off the firewall without disconnecting the wires yet. I flipped it over. There was a SIM card slot. And a serial number. I took a photo of the serial number. Then I took a photo of the vampire clip digging into my fuel pump relay. That was illegal. In this state, installing a device that can disable a moving vehicle without explicit, bold print written consent is a felony. It's reckless endangerment. If that relay tripped while I was merging, I'd lose power steering and brakes instantly. I walked into my house and grabbed the sales contract off the kitchen table. I poured a cup of black coffee and sat down with a highlighter. I read every line. Arbitration clause. Interest rate disclosure. Warranty waiver. I read the fine print. The microscopic print. Nothing. There was no GPS addendum. There was no collateral management device disclosure. Frank had slipped up. Or, more likely, Frank didn't care. He assumed his customers were desperate people with bad credit who wouldn't read the paperwork and wouldn't know what a kill switch looked like even if they stared right at it. He assumed I was a mark. He didn't know he just sold a truck to a guy who diagnoses problems for a living. I went back to the garage. I looked at the blinking lights. Green. Red. Okay, Frank, I whispered to the empty room. You want to track me? You want to see where I go? I disconnected the device. I expected an alarm. I expected my phone to ring. But nothing happened immediately. The device had an internal battery backup. It was still blinking. It was still transmitting. I wrapped the wires in electrical tape to prevent a short. I reconnected my fuel pump relay properly, soldering the connection and heat shrinking it so it wouldn't fail. I put the truck back together. Then I looked at the black box in my hand. I could smash it. But that would be too easy. That would be boring. I needed to send it somewhere. Somewhere far. Somewhere that would make Frank's repo team burn a lot of gas and lose a lot of sleep. I looked at the clock. 9 p.m. I live about 5 miles from a major interstate truck stop. The kind of place where 18-wheelers idle all night, their drivers sleeping in the cabs before hauling freight across the country. I grabbed a roll of heavy-duty, all-weather duct tape. I grabbed a thick Ziploc bag to waterproof the device. I hopped into my wife's car, not the truck, I didn't want to trigger any mileage alerts on the odometer if they were tracking that too, and drove to the truck stop. The air was thick with diesel fumes and the rumble of 100 idling engines. It was a city of chrome and lights. I parked in the shadows near the back row. I scanned the lot. I needed a long-haul rig. Something that wasn't local. I saw it. A massive Peterbilt with a refrigerated trailer. The plates were Oregon. We are currently in the Midwest. That truck was a long way from home, and it was likely heading back. The driver was nowhere to be seen, probably inside grabbing a shower or a meal. I walked casually past the truck, the black box tucked into my sleeve. I waited until the coast was clear. I ducked under the trailer. I found a nice, flat, metal crossmember on the frame, tucked high up where road debris wouldn't hit it, but where it would still have a clear signal to the sky. I slapped the device against the metal. The magnet held. Then I wrapped it in about 10 layers of duct tape. That thing wasn't coming off unless you used a crowbar. I slid out. I walked away. I got back in my car and drove home. I sat on my couch and waited. Tuesday morning. 8:30 a.m. I was in my driveway, drinking coffee, watching my neighbor walk his dog. My truck was parked right where I left it. My phone rang. It was a local number. I knew who it was. I let it ring. It rang again immediately. I picked up. Hello. Mr. Christopher. The voice was frantic. High-pitched. It was the finance manager, a guy named Steve who had smiled at me with shark teeth on Saturday. Speaking, I said, taking a sip of coffee. This is Steve from Frank's Auto. We need to know where the vehicle is. The vehicle? I asked, feigning confusion. Wait, let me check. I looked out the window at my truck. It's in my driveway. No, it isn't. Steve shouted. Sir, our system shows the vehicle is currently on Interstate 80, crossing the state line into Nebraska. Are you driving the vehicle? Nebraska? I laughed. Steve, I'm in my pajamas. I'm looking at the truck right now. I'm literally leaning against it. That's impossible. Steve's voice cracked. The GPS is hardwired. It doesn't lie. Sir, are you aware that taking the vehicle out of state without prior written authorization is a breach of your financing agreement? We can initiate repossession immediately. I'm not in Nebraska, Steve. Maybe your system is glitching. You guys buy those trackers from wish.com or something? Do not play games with me. Steve yelled. If you are trying to skip town with our collateral, we will report it stolen. We will have the police intercept you. Go ahead, I said. Send the police to Nebraska. I'll be here, rotating my tires. I hung up. I didn't block the number. I wanted to hear the meltdown. 10 minutes later, he called back. We have a recovery team en route to the location, Steve hissed. You better pull over. Steve, for the last time, I am home. If you send a repo team to Nebraska, you're going to be very disappointed. And expensive. We know you're lying. The signal is moving at 82 miles per hour. You're speeding. That sounds dangerous, I said. You should probably remotely kill the engine. There was a silence on the line. A heavy, terrified silence. Steve knew. He knew that if he hit the kill switch while the vehicle was doing 80 on the highway, and it caused a crash, the dealership would be liable for millions. He was trapped. He couldn't kill it. He could only watch it run. Don't you dare, Steve whispered. I'm not doing anything, I said. I'm just a customer. Hey, Steve. Quick question. Where in the contract does it say you installed a remote kill switch? Silence. I read it cover to cover, I continued, my voice dropping the friendly act. It's not there. So, hypothetically, if there was a kill switch, and if I had found it, that would be a massive violation of the Consumer Protection Act, wouldn't it? It might even be a criminal offense. I don't know what you're talking about, Steve stammered. I think you do. Have fun in Nebraska. I hung up. I went inside and opened my laptop. I wasn't done. The prank was funny, but the crime was real. I went to the state attorney general's website. I downloaded the consumer complaint form. I attached the photos. The serial number. The vampire clip on the fuel relay. The text message admitting they were tracking me. And a PDF of the contract proving non-disclosure. I wrote a detailed narrative. Unlawful surveillance. Predatory lending practices. Installation of unauthorized disabling devices. I hit submit. Then I called the State Police Auto Theft Task Force. I asked to speak to a detective. I found a device on my car, I told the detective. I think the dealership is tracking people illegally to sell the data. Bring it in, the detective said. We've had complaints about Franks before. We just never had a device intact. Well, I said. I can't bring you the device right now. It's currently on a tour of the Midwest. But I have the photos. By 2 p.m., the tracker was in Wyoming. I checked the weather. There was a blizzard in Wyoming. That poor repo team. At 4 p.m., my phone rang again. It wasn't Steve. It was Frank. The owner. Mr. Christopher, Frank's voice was like oil sliding over gravel. We seem to have a misunderstanding. I don't think we do, Frank, I said. Steve tells me there's a glitch with the GPS unit. And he mentioned you had some concerns about the wiring. I found the kill switch, Frank. Now, Frank chuckled nervously. That's standard industry practice for high-risk loans. It's illegal if you don't disclose it, I said. And you didn't. I checked. And by the way, Frank, I already sent the photos to the Attorney General. And the police. Frank stopped chuckling. You did what? I reported you. For everything. The tracking. The splice job. The lack of disclosure. Listen, Frank said, the oil replaced by panic. Let's not be hasty. We can work this out. What do you want? You want your down payment back. You want us to wipe the loan? I can do that. I can tear up the contract right now. You keep the truck. Free and clear. Just rescind the complaint. It was tempting. A free $22,000 truck. But then I thought about the other people. The single moms who got their cars shut off on the way to daycare because they were a day late. The guys who lost their jobs because their truck wouldn't start. No deal, Frank, I said. I'll give you $5,000 cash on top of it. Frank yelled. Cash. Today. I don't want your money, I said. I want you out of business. Where is the tracker? Frank screamed. Where the hell is it? My repo guys are in Cheyenne. They've been driving for 10 hours. Cheyenne. I looked at my map. Wow. That Peterbilt is making good time. He must be running team drivers. Peterbilt? Frank whispered. Yeah. It's on a semi, Frank. It's probably going to Seattle. Or maybe Alaska. Your guys better pack warm clothes. I heard a smashing sound on the other end. Frank had thrown something. You're dead. Frank shrieked. I'll sue you. I'll repo the truck myself. Come and get it, I said. But bring a warrant. Because the cops are on their way to your dealership right now to ask about the other devices. I hung up. I wasn't bluffing. The detective had called me back 10 minutes ago. They were executing a search warrant on Frank's records to see how many other customers were being illegally tracked. The fallout was spectacular. Within a week, Frank's Auto Kingdom was raided. They found records of over 2,000 undisclosed trackers. They found evidence that Frank was selling the location data to a third-party marketing firm, illegal. They found the kill switch software. Frank and Steve were arrested. Fraud. Wiretapping. Reckless endangerment. The dealership was shut down. The inventory was seized. And the best part? Because the dealership was dissolved and the contracts were proven to be fraudulent, the court ruled that all active loans were void. I kept the truck. I didn't pay another dime. I got a letter from the Attorney General's office a month later thanking me for the evidence. And the tracker? I watched it for 3 weeks. It went to Seattle. Then it went down to San Diego. Then it went across to Florida. The battery finally died somewhere outside of Jacksonville. I like to think that somewhere in a landfill in Florida, there is a little black box with a dead battery, buried under a pile of trash, still waiting for Frank to come and get it. Frank tried. His repo team apparently chased that truck for 2 days before they realized what happened. They spent thousands on gas and hotels. I took the truck to my shop. I rewired the whole thing. I put in a new stereo. And on the back bumper, right next to the license plate, I put a sticker. Not for repo. So, tell me. Am I the monster for sending a repo team on a cross-country wild goose chase and destroying a business, or did I just drive the getaway car for justice?
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.